Hello, this is Alex from ONG Tax and Accounting Services. So in this video, we're going to talk about U.S. tax compliance requirement for illegal aliens or undocumented aliens. Now, a lot of the time, there's a lot of bad information out there. There's a lot of confusion. There's a lot of misconception on taxes as it relates to illegal aliens or undocumented aliens. And I'm going to try and do as much as possible to clear some of these confusions or misconceptions around tax compliance issues and whether illegal aliens or undocumented aliens are required to pay taxes or file taxes or get any other kind of tax refund or tax credit or tax benefit. So stick and stay with me here and we'll talk more about it. Now, as an immigrant myself, I feel like it's very important that, before we start off discussing this topic, I must let you know that the enforcement of immigration laws is a very complex and hotly debated topic in this country. Therefore, I'm going to try to be very objective as I can be. And I'm also going to try to stay away from any topic or any discussion of any hotly debated topic and stick to the fact as it relates to only enforcement of taxes and nothing more. Okay. Now, before we start off, let me throw a word of caution out there that this video is for educational purposes only. It is not meant to be a legal or tax advice. And if at any point in time you need a legal or tax advice, you should always consult with a competent attorney or a CPA who can help you out. Now, one of the most important questions that a lot of people ask is whether illegal aliens or undocumented aliens pay taxes in the US. Now, the Internal Revenue Service requires that all workers, including undocumented immigrants, they require them to pay taxes on the income they earn within the United States. So it doesn't matter how you entered into the country. If you entered into the US, whether legally or illegally, and you make money in the US, you are required to report and pay taxes on it, okay? So this requirement to pay taxes is regardless of your immigration status. As long as you find yourself in this country working under the table or doing any kind of legal work, you're required to pay taxes on the income you make. Now, if you are undocumented immigrant working in the US, as I have said, you are obligated to pay taxes, okay? As long as the income is taxable, if the income falls within the definition of the type of income that is taxable, you are required to file and pay taxes in the US. All right, so let's look at the type of income that illegal aliens or undocumented aliens earn in the US. Now, undocumented immigrants often receive income through informal payment methods such as, being paid under the table. This also means that they may not be receiving an official paycheck or W-2, any kind of legal document that signifies that somebody is working legally and being paid, okay? Now, the IRS actually even notes that employers, regardless of whether they are hiring undocumented immigrants or they are hiring legal migrants, employers are required and are subjected to the same rules regarding tax withholding and reporting. Now, the IRS also goes on to say that employers who fail to adhere or obey these regulations may face fines and penalties from the U.S. Department of Homeland Security. Okay, so notice that the IRS says that fines and penalties comes from the U.S. Department of Homeland Security for any employer that is not obeying the labor laws and the immigration laws as it relates to employment authorization in the U.S. Okay. Now, as I talked about, as I discussed earlier, illegal aliens and undocumented aliens are generally, they generally receive income through informal means such as under the table, or they are paid in cash most of the time. Their tax obligations, they are also subject to the same withholding and reporting rules as it applies to other workers. But the way this system is shaped, sometimes this withholding and reporting rules, that generally does not take place. But that does not mean that illegal aliens or undocumented aliens should not be paying taxes on the income they are receiving. It does not matter whether the income you're receiving is in cash or in some other method. Okay, as long as you're working and receiving something, some benefit in exchange for that work, you've earned income and you need to report that income and pay taxes on it. Now let's go to one of the biggest questions that a lot of people ask. And the question is that do I have to pay taxes on income that I'm earning here in the US as a result of working illegally in the US? And the answer is yes. Undocumented immigrants, okay, whether you're undocumented or you're a legal alien, you must file and pay federal income taxes in the US, even if you do not have a social security number, and regardless of whether the income was earned through unauthorized work. So what this is saying is that it does not matter, okay, whether you were authorized to work in the US or not, as long as you're receiving income for work that you're doing in the US, you need to file and pay taxes on it, okay? It also doesn't matter whether the type of income you're making was as a result of some kind of illegal activity. If you're doing something that is illegal, the income is taxable, okay, and needs to be reported. Now, all taxable income, remember we said taxable income because not all type of income are taxable. There are some income that are exempt from taxes. So you need to know what incomes are taxable. And generally, when you're working in exchange for compensation, those are taxable income and must be reported. So if you have certain type of income and you believe it's not taxable, definitely consult with a CPA or an attorney to determine whether that income is taxable or not. Okay, but if the income is determined to be taxable, such as wages and compensation or independent contract jobs and being paid under the table for doing all sort of work, you need to report it to the IRS. Now, because illegal, sometimes there's a difference between an illegal alien and an undocumented alien. There are some people that entered into the US legally, and then for some reason, the visa expires or they do not obey the rules of that type of visa, and so they fall out of status and they become illegal, okay? And then the undocumented are people that enters the country, enter the country without inspection or without being documented or, things like that. And you know what I'm talking about, so I'm not going to go too much into it. Now, many of these people do not qualify for social security number. So even though we're saying that you need to file and pay taxes, the biggest question is, if I don't have a social security number, then how do I file and pay my taxes? Now, there's a solution. The IRS requires you to file your taxes even if you don't have a social security number, and you're required to file your taxes by using the individual taxpayer identification number, which is the ITIN. So we'll talk more about ITIN as we proceed, during this presentation. Okay, so we'll talk about how you can file taxes without a social security number. Undocumented or illegal immigrants, I specifically talk about undocumented immigrants because some immigrants, even though they are considered to be illegal, based on the way they entered into the country, may have social security. And so I kind of focus more on the undocumented immigrant. But then if you are illegal immigrant and you do not have a social security number, you can still file taxes using an ITIN. Okay, so the ITIN allows you, those without an SSN, to legally file and pay their tax returns in the US. Now, there's also include undocumented immigrants. They can use ITIN to comply with the US tax laws. Now, there are certain type of immigrants or non-citizens that are eligible for social security number, and they do not need to apply for ITIN. So, immigrants like those with work visas, such as the H-1Bs, okay, the E-1s and the E-2s, those on the DACA status, temporary protected status, TPS, green card holders, refugees, and asylees are eligible for Social Security number. So if you don't fall within any of these categories, definitely check to see, there's a need to get an SSN, or if you qualify for an ITIN. All right, so let's move on in next phase of our presentation, and it's about understanding the ITIN, or the Individual Taxpayer Identification Number. It is a 9-digit number. The format is similar to what you see on the Social Security number. Okay, and this is a 9-digit number provided to individuals who need to pay taxes in the US, but they do not qualify for Social Security number. Okay, so this includes people who are working in the US without official authorization. So if you don't have official authorization and you don't have a Social Security number, but yet you're working in the US and you're making income, you need to get to know more about the ITIN and how you can use it to file and pay your taxes. Okay, so the ITIN, again, is used to file taxes by those who do not have SSN. It's a 9-digit long, and it mirrors the format of the Social Security numbers, and it's specifically for individuals who are not eligible for Social Security number but yet need to file and pay taxes. Now, another major contention is whether illegal aliens or undocumented aliens pay the same taxes as US citizens and legal residents. Now, illegal aliens or undocumented aliens are required to pay taxes, US taxes, if they earn income in the country, okay? And if the income is taxable, they pay taxes similar to US citizens and legal residents here. Okay, so this also include complying with the tax laws, the payroll tax laws, and if they file their taxes correctly, they can pay the same type of taxes as citizens and legal residents do. Okay, so both illegal aliens and undocumented aliens must obey or adhere to the same tax obligation if they are earning income in the US. Now, those filing with an ITIN generally have the same rights to claim exemptions, deductions, and credit as those with Social Security number. Okay, now this statement is general. Okay, so I'm going to give you some few exceptions where someone using an ITIN does not get the same benefit as someone who uses a Social Security number. Okay, now so these are the exceptions to the type of tax credit that an ITIN cannot get you. Okay, so important credits like the child tax credit, the American Opportunity Tax Credit are available to ITIN holders. However, the earned income credit, okay, the earned income tax credit is not available to US taxpayers unless you have a valid SSN. Okay, there's also another catch. There's another restriction, and sometimes this, and not even sometimes, this also applies to Social Security holders. Okay, but let's focus more on the ITIN holders. If you're an ITIN holder, you cannot claim certain tax benefit on amended or late return if the ITIN was obtained after the original due date of that return. Now, another question is whether an illegal alien or undocumented alien can receive a tax refund. An undocumented immigrant or illegal alien in the US can receive tax refund if they have overpaid their taxes, similar to other taxpayers. Now, there's a lot of misconception around tax refund, but generally, you only get a tax refund if you had paid more taxes than you were supposed to pay. We call it overpayment. So let's say you were supposed to pay, after you finish your taxes, the tax return shows that you owe $1,000, but then you've already paid $2,000 in taxes. That means you've overpaid by $1,000 and you need to get your money back. That is what refund is about. So if you have overpaid your taxes, similar to other taxpayers like US residents and US citizens, you can get a refund for the overpayment. Okay, so if your tax return calculation also indicate that you've paid more than required, then you get a refund. Now, conversely, if you paid less than you're required to pay, you'll be owing taxes and you have to pay the remaining balance at the time you file your return. Okay, again, an example. let's say you filed your return for 2023, the final taxes you owe was $2,000, but then you've already paid $1,000 in estimated taxes. This means that you've paid less than you'll be owing, and so you need to pay the rest, the balance. Okay, you'll be owing taxes, so you need to pay the balance at the time of filing your return. Okay, now to summarize, just like US citizens and green card holders and other legal residents here, undocumented immigrants and illegal immigrants are eligible for tax refund if they overpaid their taxes. Undocumented immigrants must file tax returns if their income exceeds certain minimum threshold set by the IRS, okay? Just like any other resident. So for example, the standard deduction for 2023 is $13,850, okay, for single filers, and $27,700 for those that are married and filing jointly. So if you're a single person, for instance, and you're making, you collect wages and you make anywhere from, you anywhere below $13,850, or you make close to $13,850, then you're not required to file the taxes because your income does not exceed the standard deduction threshold. Okay. However, many undocumented immigrants and illegal aliens generally do not collect wages. They collect independent contract payment compensation as a result of doing contract jobs, and so it's more like they are self-employed. So if you're self-employed, your threshold is really minimal, right? As self-employed, you have to file taxes as long as you're making anywhere from $400 and above. Okay, so wages threshold is different from being self-employed. With a self-employed person, you're paying into the Social Security system. You're paying Medicare and Social Security taxes. You're paying federal taxes, and you're also paying state taxes. Okay, so if you are an undocumented immigrant or an illegal alien, and you're working as an independent contractor, you basically like your own boss. You take payment from contract jobs and all of that. You're considered to be a self-employed person. Sometimes there's a distinction between being an employee versus self-employed, so you need to make sure which classification you fall into. Okay, if you're not sure whether you're a W-2 income earner or you're self-employed, talk to a tax advisor and figure out how you're categorized, because that's going to make a big difference on the type of income you report. Okay, now you must also make a proper tax filing, because it ensures that you can claim any eligible tax refund. Now here's another question, and the question is, could filing taxes with an ITIN alert immigration officials to an illegal or undocumented status? Now the answer is no. Filing your taxes with an ITIN does not alert immigration officials, okay? And you have to understand the reason why. The IRS is focused on tax collections. The IRS is the agency that collects revenue in the form of taxes for the government. Okay, they want to encourage you to file your returns so the government can get more revenue and do more, to help the country succeed in whatever it's doing, and to help the country carry on its development and expansion project and all of that, and take care of the needy and take care of the of the system that we have here. So the IRS is not going to discourage people from filing taxes by reporting them to immigration officials. No, the IRS does not do that. I know this is a very common misconception, and that's the reason why many illegal aliens and undocumented immigrants do not file taxes. But you got to be rest assured that filing taxes with an ITIN does not alert immigration officials. And again, I talked about some of the policy reasons behind this. Let me also tell you about the section 6103 of the Internal Revenue Code. Now, according to this section, the IRS cannot share taxpayer information with other government agencies, okay, except in some limited circumstances, except for specific tax-related investigations or by the federal court order for non-tax criminal investigations, okay? So IRS has a very strong privacy protection to ensure that all taxpayers, okay, not just immigrants, all taxpayers who report their income and file their taxes are not at risk of having their information shared. Okay, so this also applies to illegal and undocumented immigrants. The IRS does not share your information or alert immigration officials about you. Okay, they are more concerned about their tax enforcement, tax collecting revenue for the government. That is what the IRS is for. Now, what can you use the ITIN for, or what can you not use it for? Okay, now there's a lot of misconception around ITIN, but an ITIN does not authorize a person to work in the US. Okay, an ITIN, it does not provide eligibility for Social Security benefits. It does not grant any immigration benefits. So that's something that you need to know. The ITIN is purposely there to help you file and pay your taxes, and that's it. Okay, so if all of this sounds good, then I guess the biggest question you're asking yourself is, where can you apply for an ITIN? Now, there are three options. Okay, you can actually do everything on your own, and you could mail in the application. You send the form that's used to prepare to apply for the ITIN is called a W-7 form. So if you know how to fill it out, read the instructions. You're going to attach your tax return to it and a proof of identity and foreign status, okay, to the address you see on your screen. And then when you're submitting the proof of identity and foreign status, you should submit original document or the certified copies from the issuing agencies. Okay, if you send in original document, they will be returned to your mailing address. You may use a prepaid express mail or courier envelope for faster return. Okay, now option 2, you can go in person to a certified acceptance agent, and I am a certified acceptance agent, and you can see my listing on the IRS website. I'm based in Colorado, so if you want to apply for an ITIN, you're preparing a tax return and you need an ITIN, you can reach out to me and we can help you out. Now, when you use a certified acceptance agent, it prevents you on the need of mailing a proof of identity and foreign status like your passport and those important documents directly to the IRS, because sometimes people are scared that those passports are going to be lost in the mail, and so they don't want to use option 1. So they would rather use a certified acceptance agent. So an acceptance agent basically reviews your document, makes sure it's authentic and genuine, and then that acceptance agent makes a copy and send that copy to the IRS, and then you get to keep your original document. So that's a good thing to use a certified acceptance agent. And then the last one is you can go to an in-person application at the IRS Taxpayer Assistance Center. Okay, so you can go to the IRS TACs. You can make an appointment with them. If you don't want to use option 1 and option 2, you make an appointment with the IRS, and you can find the center by using the Taxpayer Assistance Center office locator as you see in your screen. And then also, if your original documents are not returned to you, if you're using option 1 and the original document is not returned to you within 11 weeks, you can call the IRS at the numbers you see on your screen, and then you can also call the international line. Okay, now I hope this helps you guys out, and if it does, please click like, share and subscribe, and we'll come to you with another video. Thank you very much. Bye.